Hi, I am Dr. Sai Prasad Reddy. Welcome to Interview Questions and FAQs Session 2 of Software Testing. Now we are going to discuss the interview questions, two interview questions. What is error, fault, failure? Explain the relationship between error, fault, failure. If you are attending for the software testing position interview, you should know the relationship between error, fault, failure. Generally, these questions will be asked for the freshers. Now, we will discuss about this topic. So, what is the error? The terminology error is related to coding. Who is responsible for coding? Software developers. Why the error will occur in the coding? If the software developer makes some mistake in the code, then that program will get error. This is called error. A human action, here human means software developer. A human action that produces incorrect results. Why? Due to mistake in the code is called an error. What is the fault? Fault is also called as a defect. Is also called as a bug. Is also called as an issue. Is also called as an anomaly. Why we will get this fault? Just because of the error in the code. As the error is present in the code, that means as the error is present in the software, we will get the defect in the code, in the application. A manifestation of error in a software, which is also known as a defect, which may cause a failure of the operation. This is called fault. And what is a failure? A deviation of a software from its expected service is called failure. What it means? Why we are getting failure in the operation? Because of the presence of the defect. As the defect is present in the software, sometimes some defects may lead to entire failure of the operation in the application. This is called failure. Here, this very important note is this failure is an event, whereas the fault or the defect is a state of the software which is caused by an error. You have to understand this point thoroughly. You have to understand this point correctly. Failure is nothing but an event. So for example, say if you are performing any operation on the internet banking, if that failure occurs while doing some operation in the internet banking application, that a failure is an event. So, but whereas a fault indicates the state of the software. That means the defect indicates the state of the software. Why we got this defect or why we got the fault? Just because of an error. So this is the relationship between error, fault, failure. Now, see, here, these are the multiple choice questions, that is MCQs. Each question will have the different options. You have to choose the correct option. For some questions, actually I have included the explanation. That means if the particular question demands the explanation, then for those questions I have included the explanation. Some questions may not demand the explanation. That means direct questions and easily understandable questions. For those questions I have not provided any explanation. What is the use of these MCQs? Some companies, if you attend for this job interview for testing position, some companies will conduct a technical screening test. Why they will conduct the technical screening test? To filter. Right? So for example, say if there is one position, but actually the number of positions will not be announced internally as per their requirement. Say for example, there is one position requirement for the software test engineer positions. 200 and 300 students may attend for the interview. So for all these 200, 300 students, they cannot conduct a face-to-face interview. That's why to filter the candidates, some companies will conduct technical screening test. For those technical screening tests, these questions will help you more. Not only for this technical screening test, for the competitive exams also, and for the GATE exam also, for ISTQB certification exam also. What is ISTQB? International Software Testing Qualifications Board. That is our certification exam. For that exam also, all these questions will help you more. These are the very important questions. Now, see. Visible to end users is a deviation from the specific or expected behavior. This is called as error, fault, failure, defect, mistake. So end users, visible to end users. Visible to end users is related to the failure of the operation. For example, as I said earlier, if you are using internet banking, you are the customer for that particular internet banking. You are the end user. As an end user, you are using that application. While using that application, if there is a deviation in the specific or expected behavior or the service, then it is called as a failure. Right? Now, see, option C. This is called failure. Just you can read that explanation for a comfortable understanding. The next, mark the correct statements. Defects are a result of environmental conditions and are also referred to as failures. A human mistake may produce a defect. A system will totally fail to operate correctly when a failure exists in it. When a defect exists in a system, it may result in a failure. Defects occur only as a result of a technology changes. Right? So, now see, what is the explanation for this question? Defects are results of environmental conditions and are also referred to as a failures. So, defects will not occur as because of the environmental conditions. There will be so many reasons for getting the defects. Right? A human mistake may produce a defect. What is a human mistake? That is an error. Error obviously will lead to the defect. Right? So, and a system will totally fail to operate correctly when a failure exists in it. Yeah, sometimes some failures will cause the total failure of the operation. Next, when a defect exists in a system, it may result in a failure. Why you are getting failure of the operation in application? Because the defect is present in the system. And the defects occur only as a result of technology changes. So the defects will not occur only because of this technology changes. There will be so many other factors for getting the defects in the application, in the software. Right? So which is the correct option? We have to choose the correct option. Option D is the correct one. That is second, third, fourth. Right? So what is the explanation? A person or the developer makes a mistake. That mistake is called as a code, error in the code. That error will create a defect in the software. This defect can cause a failure in the operation. Some defects may cause partial failure of the operation, and some defects may cause a total failure of the software. Defects will not occur only as a result of technology changes or only as a result of environmental conditions. There will be so many other reasons. So option 1 and option 5 are wrong. Option 2, 3, 4 are correct. Like this, you have to analyze each and every option. If you analyze each and every option correctly, if you understand each and every option correctly, then it will become very easy for you to choose the correct options. And also by analyzing, by understanding these options, you will get more command on the subject. Next, a fault is defined as What do you mean by the fault? Fault is nothing but a defect, right? Yeah, a deviation from expected delivery or service, a manifestation of error in the software, a malfunction in the software, a mistake made by the developer, a human error made by the developer. So which is the correct option? So you have to think and you have to choose which is the correct option. A manifestation of an error in the software is called as a fault. That we have already discussed. So what is the fault? Fault is nothing but the defect. So a manifestation of error in a software, which is also known as a defect or a bug, which may cause failure. See? Next. Which of the following statements contains the correct use of the terminology? An error made by a person may introduce a fault into the software that may cause failure in operation. A fault by a person may introduce an error into the software that may cause failure in the operation. A failure by a person may introduce a fault into the software that may cause an error in the operation. An error made by a person may introduce a failure into the software that may cause a fault in the operation. A failure by a person may cause an error in the software that may cause fault in the operation. See, these options you have to understand thoroughly and carefully. Each and every option. You have to read once, twice, thrice and 4 times to understand that option. Right? Now, see, what is the explanation? A person makes a mistake in a code which creates a fault in the software. This fault can cause failure in the operation. With this help of this explanation, you have to choose the correct option. Which is the correct option? Option A is the correct one. Yeah, because a error made by a person is made by a developer may introduce a defect in the software. That defect may cause failure in the operation. That option A is correct. What is this, the rest of the options? These are the rest of the, if you observe carefully, the rest of the options are wrong. Okay, next. A failure is found in the software, the result of an error, departure from specified behavior, an incorrect step, process or data definition in a computer program, a human action that produces an incorrect result. So what is a failure? What is the explanation about the failure? A deviation of the software from its expected service or the expected behavior. Simple. So which is the correct option? So option B is the correct one, that is called departure from the specified behavior. Right? Next. A deviation from the specified or expected service that is visible to end users. Whenever you use the words visible to end users are there in the question, all this the visible to end users are related to failure, right? So which I have already explained. So option C is the correct one, a failure. That means the terminology, the word failure is related to end users. Defects are related to software test engineers. Errors are related to software developers. Next. A failure can be defined as, what is a failure? Simple. So, the cause of a defect, deviation from the expected result, result of an error, mistake in the code. What is this one? A deviation of the software from its expected service is called as a failure. A deviation from expected results is called as a defect. Defect may cause failure in the operation. Right? So, that is option A is correct. That is the cause of the defect. Just because of the defect, we will get the failure in the operation. But whereas the deviation from the expected result is called as a defect. Result of an error is also defect. Mistake in the code is also error. So option A is correct option. Next. What is the proper example for a software failure while accessing internet banking? So that means if the end user is accessing that internet banking system or internet banking application, so there are 4 options, which is the proper example for software failure. Unable to access the internet banking because of the system failure. Unable to access the internet banking because of wrong file is updated by the employee. The invoice paid late because of the bad service. Unable to access the internet banking because it severe under maintenance work. Sorry, maybe it may be a server. Its server may be under maintenance work. So I'm sorry for this word. Instead of severe, please make it as a server, right? Yeah. Which is the correct option? C. Option A is the correct one. Unable to access the internet banking because of the system failure. That is only the failure, right? The rest of the three options are wrong. Next. A fault is a failure to perform a predefined command, a deviation between the expected and the actual behavior. That means as per the specification or client requirements. When a command execution is not fulfilled accordingly, when a fault becomes visible to the user or tester, the cause of the failure, the example, wrongly programmed for forgotten command in the program. So fault we know very well, that is manifestation of error. This is also called as a defect or a bug or issue or anomaly. So when can we say that there is a fault? If there is a deviation or the mismatching between the expected results and the actual results. This is called fault, right? So in interviews, they may ask you, for freshers, they may ask you what is the fault. Then you have to say, answer like this. Fault is also called as a defect, which is also called as a bug, which is also called as an issue, which is also called as an anomaly. So if there is a deviation from the expected results and actual results, then it is called as a defect. Or mismatching between expected results and actual results is called as a defect. Right? Like this you have to explain. If the persons who are claiming 2 years experience or 3 years experience or 1 year experience, even for freshers also, if you want to define the defect in different way, you can define this definition as customer dissatisfaction is also called as a defect. So, what is a defect? Any dissatisfaction with respect to this operation of this application to the customer is called as a defect. Right? So, the first two definitions normally everybody will use, but as a senior software test engineer or the experienced software test engineer, even for the freshers also, if you want to define the defect definition in a different way when compared to other people, then you can say like this. Customer dissatisfaction is called defect. Right? Yeah. So that is the failure to perform a predefined command, a deviation from the expected results and actual behavior is called as a fault. Right? So please subscribe my channel, share my interview questions, video sessions to all the students groups, those who are trying for the software test engineer job in the IT industry. Please don't forget to raise your comments in the comment box. Thank you very much.